Welcome to the Mile Marker Mindset Podcast, where real stories meet real change. Hosted by Mark Keith, a voice forged by the miles and refined by the mindset. Shift your mindset. Shift your life. Let's go to work.
Hey there, my name is Mark, and I'm host of the Mile Marker Mindset Podcast. And on with me again is my guest, Julie Stevens. She's a retired family lawyer, and now she's all over TikTok and giving her point of view on everything. And I'm sure, talk a bit about that. But she's back with me again, and we're going to go over some more relationship
Hello.
stuff and that kind of stuff. Julie, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. And speaking of TikTok, I'm so excited because one of my posts had over 1 million views last week. So that really made me excited. So hopefully people could keep following me and liking my stuff on there.
Is that one post or all your posts? I know you're on a bit.
Just one, yeah, one post hit 1 million views, more than 1 million views
Wow,
last week.
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So it's exciting.
And with all the technical stuff we had last time, we forgot to mention your TikTok. So let's get that at the top of the show here. What's your TikTok for everybody listening?
Yeah. So it's Mama Jules, all lowercase, and then underscore POV, and POV is in cap. So my point of view. Yep,
And Jules, Jules, not the jewelry
exactly.
Jules.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Mama Jules is the name that my kids' friends gave me
oh,
when they were like 12 years old. I was always Mama Jules. So
oh,
that's why I use that still.
that's cool. All right. So this is our third episode, kind of wrapping up our pre conversation interview stuff. I'm sure we'll do future shows in the future, but this is definitely something to wrap up all loose ends. So, first episode, we went over comfort zones and family patterns, financial abuse, walking on eggshells, and started to introduce some abuse type stuff as well as some light conflict stuff. Episode 2, we got into verbal abuse, justification patterns, the cost of conflict, healthy and unhealthy relationships, and impact on kids. I don't know about you, but I had a bit of a habit when my kids were younger of trashing they're trashing my baby mama, if you will, and saying bad things about their mom when they were with me, even when they were older, even though I knew I shouldn't be doing that and it's wrong to do that. And sometimes you can feel like, oh, they're doing it, so it's okay if I do it. And I know you got kids that are a bit older too. What do you think about that?
So, yes, I have had that happen to me a couple of times. So, when I went through my divorce was very quick. It was a 60-day divorce. It was rapid fire,
Yeah.
which I don't always recommend, but that's what happened to me. And so my kids are older and they were visiting me one year for Christmas with my grandkids. And I was in a stage where I was unraveling, I would say. Had been with the same person for 35 years. And so the first time I had been single since I was 17 years old. So I was not acting like myself, which I think is normal, but I was having a good time. I wasn't being reckless, but I was having fun and being single. And I was leaning upon my kids too much. I was trying to validate my feelings through my children. I was trying to let them know that I'm hurting, that I'm a human being too, that everything isn't just one person's fault, there's two people at stake. And I was using them as an emotional support system. And I really did not realize how that was impacting them negatively. And they did not tell me. And I was learning that they were having conversations amongst themselves and they were comparing notes of what things that I was saying and things that their father was saying, and they had enough. And I think a lot of people believe, well, I will wait till I even have my divorce until the kids are older. Like that matters. The people have to realize that older kids are just as impacted by divorce as a 7-year-old. And in fact, I think it's worse on older kids because they wonder, was my whole life fraud? Was my whole life a situation where did they not love each other the entire time that I thought that we were this perfect family? So you really end up questioning them as adulthood, like their reality. And that can be very troubling. Whereas a 7-year-old just says, oh, okay, everybody in my class, moms and dads are divorced, and it is what it is. But when they're adults, they have a huge impact too. And I think people need to realize waiting till kids are adults doesn't always make sense. Do what needs to be done to keep everybody healthy at that particular moment. Now, going to how I healed with my children. So one day, I'm talking to my daughter, we're making the bed together, and she just looked at me. I'm done. She's like, I've had it. I'm done. And she starts crying. And I'm like, what's going on? Completely oblivious. And she's just like, Mom, do you ever think that maybe we might feel sorry for you, might want to listen to you, might want to care for you if you would just stop talking about dad? Just stop complaining about dad. You have friends, you're in therapy, you have coworkers. She's like, we are not that person. That's all she said. And it just I literally just clicked, like, my brain just went and went into reverse, and I said, "What have I done?" And I just bawled with her, we cried, we hugged it out, and we didn't say too much after that, and my son was in another part of the house, and I ran to him, and I just said, "Oh my god, Tyler, Kaylee just told me what I've been doing, you've never told me." I go, You don't have to say anything. I know what I did was wrong. I am so sorry." I could cry right now. I go, "I am so sorry." I'm like, "I messed up, and I promise I'll never do it again." And he looked at me, and he just goes, "Mom, I've been waiting all year for you to do this and say this. I love you so much. Thank you." And we hugged it out, and it was great.
That's great.
So then everything's been fantastic for a few years now. And then I went through a situation where I felt like I was hurt by something. And I went to my daughter and my son again, and I reported what had happened to me, like telling on somebody. Does that change anything? Nope. Did it already happen? Yep. I was looking for emotional support from my adult children who are almost 30 years old. And again, not thinking it was that wrong, I felt justified. I felt like they had a right to know what this person is doing to me and the family. I text them both, find out that they're having a side conversation because they're very honest and they tell me these things. And we had a rough 2-day patch. And I was just like, again, she had to remind me,
Yeah.
you are in a mother role. I am a child. I could be 50 years old and you 75, mom, but we have a different dynamic. You are always going to be the mom. You're always going to be the person who set the rules and raised us. We may act like we're best friends, but we're not best friends. And I think a lot of moms and daughters think they're best friends, and sometimes moms and sons think they're best friends. But the mom is the mom. And even with my mother and the situations that I have with my mom, she's 80 something years old. It's like she thinks that we're best friends, like, or we should be best friends. And she doesn't get that I'm supposed to have my own life away from her. I don't have to share everything with her. And there's that parental dynamic that we forget when everybody is an adult. And I think that we need to really remember that. And there's somebody on Instagram and on TikTok, and she goes by Codependency Kate. And she's a therapist. And I just love her. I listen to almost everything she puts out there, and she holds everybody to task. She's fantastic. I can't imagine having a one on one with her. I wish I could fly to her state and have just individual therapy with her. She's so good. And she spends a lot of time on the parental dynamic, whether you are a 30-year-old with a 10-year-old child and how that interplays, or you're somebody like me. I'm 55 and my children are almost 30. I went through this with my kids recently and I apologized again. I'm like, you know what? I had another slip up. I'm sorry. I gave you a good 3 years and I'm human. I made a mistake. Thank you for pointing it out to me. And I will strive my best not to do that again.
Wow. I'm really glad to hear that it worked out and you were able to learn from it, and all you guys are all better because of it. That's great.
That's yeah. And you know what it is? You can't have an ego. You can't say, "I can't believe she said that to me. I can't believe you're not there for me." Because those are all I statements. It has nothing to do with how they feel. It's defensiveness when you do things like that. And so you have to lay your ego down and only listen to the person and how even though you didn't have the intent, and we've talked about this in the past 2 episodes, is your impact on somebody. You may never have meant to hurt them. Obviously, I didn't mean to hurt my kids, and I didn't think I was hurting my kids. That's irrelevant. I did hurt my kids, and that's what people don't understand is the impact you have on people. To me, that's a snippet for you to put out there on the short reels. It's the impact that you have on people, not the intent.
So, interesting points. I certainly have been guilty of that with my older daughter, especially. Thankfully, I learned my lessons from that with my younger daughter. So, unfortunately, you don't know what you don't know, and that's a part
Right.
of the process. But I definitely had my fair share of saying bad things about my daughter's mothers, especially my older daughter when I was going through all my stuff. And unfortunately, our relationship is a bit strained right now.
Can I go on a little tangent on that too? What you
Sure.
just said too is that I also think it's really important that when you have 2 children, that you don't go to the child that you are close with and ask about the child that you're not close with. You don't say, "What do you think they want for Christmas?" Or, "Do you think they'll ever talk to me again?" Or, "Do you think they wanna come to see me here in Florida as well?" I don't think that you should use either child to tell on to report on how the other because you're again, it's that same role, right?
Yeah, it's
You're leaning then on one child for your own selfish you're trying to derive empathy from somebody else, and that's not how you get empathy from somebody. You let kids be kids no matter how old they are.
that's true. because, like you said, it doesn't matter how old you are, still their
Right.
parent. And sometimes they forget about that. And something else, too, that I thought of when you were talking about what happened with you is a lot of parents tend to make the mistake of thinking that they are the child's friend, especially while they're growing up. Where, look, I get you have a kid, you have a daughter, you have a son, and you like doing stuff with them, and you have an idea of the kind of clothes that they should be on and whatever, but you're still mom, you're still dad, and you need to parent your child, not be a friend to them. And
That's
that's
exactly
a
right.
mistake that I s- see in relationships that I have had. I see that with, actually, being honest, with my younger daughter's mom. She doesn't like to, how do I put this? There's evidence that she treats our daughter more like a friend than a child. And it doesn't matter that she's 15 right now. She's still our child. She's not your friend. So letting your kid make the decisions over things, all that kind of stuff, she's still a minor child. It doesn't matter if you're co-parenting and you have a 10-year-old or you have a 17-year-old. Until they're 18, they're technically still and legally still a child. And you can ask for their input. Sure. Especially once they get a bit older, ask their input. Well, the ultimate decision still should come down to the parent, and ideally make that decision together, just
Right.
unilateral. And that's another mistake a lot of, I think, and I'm sure you can, probably will talk a bit on that topic. So I know you have a lot of experience with that working with family.
And I think that social media is the real problem where parents don't act like parents and they let their kids do whatever they want on social media.
Yeah.
And that to me, I'm so happy that my kids and I grow up with that social media. It was just starting when they were in upper high school. And I'm so glad I didn't have to raise kids with social media the way it is now. I feel bad for young parents having to deal with that and with the rules that they want to
Mm.
make. And even though I mentioned how like my nickname is Mama Jules, and
Yeah.
my daughter's friends and my son's friends. I just talked to two of my son's friends last week when I was in New York. They're like, Mama Jules this and Mama Jules that. And I wish happy birthday. Thanks, Mama Jules. I've always been for the soccer team and for the high school girls and the boys, I was Mom Jules. And that does inflate your ego because, ooh, they all like me and I'm the cool mom.
Yeah.
But behind closed doors, I was not Mama Jules. To my kids, I was not Mom Jules. I was mom. And I was very strict and I had rules and I was like a super sleuth and I was a private investigator. And
Yeah.
I scanned their phones and their computers and I would make sure they were really at parties and I had ways of figuring that out. And they hated that about me. Like, why can't you be cool, mom? Why? And they let their kid drink when they were 16 as long as the parents are home. I'm like, never, never. And I was so strict. They will probably both deny this now, but now they're both parents and married. And both kids have said to me on separate occasions a while ago, they said, you know what? We wouldn't have changed a thing. Maybe some of the yelling you did, which I agree, but they said, "We wouldn't change how you raised us, and we wanna raise our kids the way that you raised us."
Right.
And I gotta tell you, that was, like, the best birthday, Mother's Day, and Christmas gift all one I could ever get as a parent because you are the parent, and you're not there to be their friend. You're there to raise good humans is your job as a parent.
You brought up a good point there too, with them saying they want to raise their kids like you raised them. Like, how many parents go through life like when they have kids? I'm not going to raise my kids like my parents raised me.
Me.
Right. Right. So I think it's great that they said that to you because I honestly think that's the exception, not the rule. I think most parents go through their life thinking, wow, I don't want to be anything like my parents. I don't want to raise my kid like my parents raised me. I want to learn
Yep.
from their mistakes and break the
Right.
cycle and all the other stuff. And a lot of people that I'm sure hear this think that, but to have your child say, thank you for what happened. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, whatever. But if I can raise my kids like you raised us, that's a win. That's great.
Exactly. Yeah, and just one more example is with this ego. I remember there's a time too where, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, I'm just trying to relay things that I've learned through therapy and from being a therapist and being a divorce lawyer and watching so many parents make mistakes that I realized that there was a time where I was a yeller. You know, there was never, I never touched my kids. There's never any physical abuse, never shoving, nothing like that, how I was raised. But I would raise my voice and I would lose it. I had the inability to self regulate during that period of my life. And I one day went to my son who got the brunt of it because he was the one who caused some trouble in his high school time. And I just went to him one day. I go, "Hey, I just want to let you know, dude, like, I think back at that, and I wish I could take all those days back when I was yelling at you. Like, that wasn't cool, and I wish I didn't do that." And he was listening. He's like, "Mom, it's all good. Like, don't worry about it. It's all good." It may not have been good. It may have been affecting him. It didn't, apparently. He was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You didn't have to say that." And that was a relief for me. He gave me a gift by saying that.
It's awesome.
But that's not why I did it. I did it because in case it was affecting him now as an adult. And back then, before he had his child, I didn't want him to think that was okay behavior. And thankfully, it didn't impact him negatively, but you can't assume that. So you should always have that wonder, and you should go to your kids if you think you made mistakes once you have evolved a bit and say, "Hey, when I did this when you were 16, I don't think that was right. And I wish I could take it back and I can't, but I want you to know that I think about it and I'm sorry about it." That's all you literally have to say. It doesn't be an hour-long therapy session. It's all you have to say. And then they may go, "It did impact me. Thank you." And then maybe it does be an hour-long therapy session. But with my son, who's just like, "No, it's all good." So I was like, well, at least I said it. And that's all I had to say. And there's no need to keep bringing it up. It is what it is. It's over. And you acknowledge it and you move on.
Absolutely. It's all part of growth. And ultimately, we go through our stuff. Kids have to learn their own way too.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's also something else that we deal with is you got to just let kids be kids and let them make their own mistakes and just let them learn from them. And that's tough too.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
And that's actually one thing that we're struggling a bit with now is with my younger daughter. You know, the path that she's going on a bit with some of the decisions she's making. Teenagers, even adults into their 20s, you can't tell them, right? Because they think they got it figured out or somebody else along the way told them. And you mentioned social media. Like you hear on social media, this and that's the way it's supposed to be. And you can't tell them otherwise that they're not going to listen. They just had to learn the lesson the hard way. And that's hard to watch as a parent for sure
That's important.
in your life, not just in theory, but actually in practice. I know we talked a bit about the conflict book, but in the last couple of episodes, we definitely talked about a lot of good stuff. What does that look like in real time to you?
So my real time, to me, I feel like I have a 4-year real time if I can do that because these 4 years have been a major transition in my life, right? So I got divorced. I'm a grandma times three. I don't live with my kids anymore. I moved across the country. I'm living with somebody now. So it's just so many things have been happening for me during the past 4 years. And so for my real time, real life kind of situation is that I'm going to talk about my work. So I worked for a year and a half as a divorced person. And as a divorce lawyer, I would say that I did, I definitely looked at my clients differently, even in the initial consult after going through divorce myself. And even though mine was a whirlwind 60-day kind of divorce, and it wasn't sometimes like the 9 month to year kind of divorce that I was dealing with because people are just want to stay in conflict and I did not. I definitely had more empathy for people. I definitely thought about them different. I would always tell people, and it was always on my website, I tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. I'm not your friend. I'm not the person sitting at the bar that you just met with for a drink. I'm not your cousin. I'm not your therapist. I'm your lawyer. You're here to pay me an attorney fee, retainer. I'm going to do a really good job for you. I'm going to get you a fair financial result. I'm going to fight for your kids. And then hopefully I never see you again. And it was just boom. And that's how I acted. And it worked well. And clients did like that. But once you go through divorce and once you go through losing half of the income and you lose half of your assets and you actually have to budget and you're alone on the weekend, you don't just have somebody to talk to when you're watching a funny show. You can't go, oh, yeah, there's nobody there anymore. It's a very different lifestyle than I had been for 35 years.
Mm.
And so I was more empathetic to people. And I would actually tell my clients before they were even an official client, they hadn't paid a retainer yet. They're just there for the consult. I would tell them, yeah, I just went through divorce and I know how you're feeling or this is going on. And I will tell you that the responses I would get from these clients the last year and a half of my practice, they just were like, thank you for telling me. Thank you for being human. Because I was never a human before. I was just a really good kick ass attorney. But now I was one with also being human. And they were like, it's so nice just to talk to somebody who gets how I'm feeling. They're not just here to take my money. And I was like, how sad that I couldn't be like that for the
Yeah.
26 years I was a lawyer. That made me sad that it took me going through trauma to feel what my clients were going through too. And that could be like anything. Some people say some doctors have the best bedside manner. Maybe it's because they had a grandpa who died of a terrible cancer, or maybe their aunt was in hospice. And so now they know what that's like. And so they're good with their patients.
Yeah.
Because how many of us have doctors who just, it's like, this is what's wrong with you. I'm not going to explain to you the medical terms. I'll see you in 2 weeks and call my secretary. You're like, dude, I could be dying here. Can you just talk to me like a human being? And I realized maybe I wasn't talking to people like a human being. Okay. So going through my personal life is I'm trying to be more like a human being in my personal life too, because there's no way all lawyers will admit this. When you're in litigation, and I don't know, I can't say all lawyers, but when you're a litigation lawyer, where you're in court every week and you're fighting against people and your life is conflict. Literally, and learn and winning every conflict, and you're always right. You got to win. And if you lose, I'm going to appeal because I'm not wrong. I'm still going to win. You live like that. You carry that as raising your parents. You carry that as an adult child to your older parents. That's just your lifestyle. That's how you deal with you're going to Trader Joe's and the person. We're here for a transaction. I don't care about your day. I don't care the weather's good. I'm here to buy groceries. Here's my receipt. Bye bye. And now I'm like, what the heck? I think I'm much more human now. I listen to people. I pause a lot more. I realize I am not as great as I thought I was. If I can be really blunt, I'm not as great as I thought I was. And I could have been a real jerk to a lot of people. And I now finally know that. Thing is that what I've learned though too is that I don't have shame for that. Because there's no room for shame. Because shame is where you could get defensiveness and you're just going to crawl into yourself. It's just saying, I did this. It was not appropriate. I didn't know any better. Now I know better, so I'm going to do better. And I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to listen to people. And if I feel hurt by you, I'm just going to say, I feel hurt from you. I need these questions answered. And you just accept the answer. You don't say, why did you do that? You say, thank you for giving me the answer. And we've been talking about like our personal family. And I don't know if your wife Megan told you this or not, but there was something that happened recently. And it took me a couple days to process it. And I had so many questions. And I'm just like laying out questions to her. And I'm like, Megan, did this happen this way? Who said this? And it wasn't against nothing against her. She had the information and
Yeah.
only person I can get it from. And she gave me the information. And I was just like, thank you. Like, I just need the information. But I wasn't going to make somebody feel bad for being part of the process. I wasn't going to blame the person for being part of the process, but I just needed some information. So I'm better at that too. Just listen, I'm not going to harbor things anymore. I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm not going to ask you, why did you do something? I'm not going to blame you for things that you did because I don't need to blame me for things that I did. I just want to say, I need information so I can process stuff. I want to be better at what I do, better how I communicate, pause, listen to people. And I'm also learning to take time for myself.
Very good.
I've become the queen of, I can't do this right now. I'm going to go to a different room. I can't do this right now. I'm going to go for a walk. I can't do this right now. I'm going to go watch the morning show on Apple TV. I've been trying to encourage my significant other to do that more. Don't follow me to the room if I walk out of the room if I need a moment. And it doesn't mean that we're having a conflict. Maybe I'm having an issue with my own family member or something, or a health issue. It's not always personal between him and me, but it can be as well. But I'm like, it's okay to say, I'm walking away. I'm not walking away from you. I'm walking away so I can self regulate, so I can process, so I can figure out what I need, taking some deep breaths, and I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk. And I was never that person. I would just grow silent and just be like, you don't care. What's the
Mm.
point? And then you resent.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, it comes out in this crazy fight. And a lot of people don't do that. And so I've been learning there's no shame in my game, it's growth. And I have to take care of myself. If I take care of myself, I'm taking care of you. So I think I'm doing things less selfishly. I
Mm.
hope.
Yeah. It's awesome to see that growth, that process. I definitely understand how that goes for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
I want to comment on that, but I want to circle back to something else he said that I thought was interesting. Is he mentioned how you have more empathy now as a divorcee more than part of the litigation process. And so, is there a way without going through it? I don't know how many potential attorneys might be listening to this eventually down the road or whatever, but how can an attorney or really any field, a doctor, lawyer, whatever professional field, have that empathy for their clients or their patients or whatever without going through it first? Because if you can tell yourself something for the past pre-divorce, the 25 years you were a family lawyer, what would you tell a young ambitious attorney, Julie, divorce lawyer, how to have that empathy for her clients in the future, not just be a business transaction, for lack of a better term.
Right. So there may be some attorneys who do have that natural empathy. That is a possibility, obviously. I think there are a lot. I've got colleagues who I do know have the empathy, and I would look at them like, just tell them what to do. And they're probably looking at me like, damn, girl. And so I would definitely tell myself to have the empathy. I don't think enough attorneys are going through their own therapy. So this is something that no one talks about. So we have a program in Indiana where I practice called JLAP, Judicial Lawyers Assistance Program. And it's where if you need help you can get not like therapy, but mentoring and life coaching and things like that. Unfortunately, it was advertised and used mostly for attorneys who may have some true mental health problems and need some resources, or they were alcoholics, because it's been known that lawyers have the highest alcohol related rate. The rate is very high for attorneys. And so it's not used just for regular people who just need to talk about what's going on through their day.
Hmm.
Therapists, right? Clinical psychologists, and I'm sure you know this, that they actually have to meet with another therapist like monthly. And they have to go tell them, like, this hurt me, this hit me. I don't know how to deal with this person. I don't like this client, and I'm having trouble giving them really good therapy because I don't like them personally, or they smell like cigarettes and I have a hard time connecting. So the therapist goes to therapy to learn how to be a better therapist and talk about the things that they're going on. Because you think about it, you're listening to people talk about all the bad stuff in their life all day long. You have to process it yourself. So now think about a divorce lawyer. It's the exact same thing. You're hearing people not just talk about things that are going on in their life, but they're griping about their spouse or ex-spouse or the father of the children. And it's just nothing but negativity. And we have nobody to talk to. So I would tell young attorneys out there, go to therapy. Not therapy for your life in terms of your children issues or your spouse issues or your girlfriend issues. Go there to talk about your job. Go to therapy once a month. It's not like a weekly thing. I think once a month is good. Just to talk about your clients, just to talk about what you're going through, what you hate about your job, what you love about your job. And I think that could help get it out of your system. And I think that could help them being empathy, because it's hard to give empathy and really associate, be in attune with people. There's validation and there's attunement. Those are two different things. And I think being attuned with people is even more important than validating, because validating can be called, I hear what you're saying. I hear that you are very upset with me for not putting away the dishes. Attuning is you're connecting with the person. It's a higher level than validation. And I think that is something that attorneys could learn how to do as well through the empathy, is that they can connect with the person. And I think if you start connecting with the person, then maybe your client won't fight against you. They don't see you also as an adversary, that maybe they'll actually listen to your advice better because you're actually connecting with them. You're not telling them what to do. You can't tell your 7-year-old, don't scream bloody murder anymore because you can't have a popsicle. My granddaughter now, her thing is after she gets in trouble, I don't want to be in trouble. Then don't do something to get you in trouble. I just don't want to be in trouble. Well, life doesn't work that way. But that's how attorneys deal with their clients. Don't do this. Maybe I want to do it. No, you don't do it. And that's how we treat them like kids, if you think about it.
Huh.
And we're not in tune with them as human beings. And I think that's something that I would tell younger attorneys. And I would tell that to even seasoned attorneys who still want to practice another 15 years.
Just do it. I want to do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
That's funny. The
Yeah.
concept's
Yeah.
not funny, but the way you put it, it's really funny. It makes a lot of sense, though.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
common
Yeah.
sense would tell you, oh, yeah, I don't want in trouble, but don't do the thing that gets you in trouble. But it's not that easy,
Exactly.
fortunately, or
That's
you
right.
wouldn't be in this position to begin with. That's really
Right.
funny. Going back to how you handle situations, circling back to that, one of the things I think is couples get in this trap of is you just want to move on. You're tired of fighting, you're tired of whatever the issues are, and you just want to move on. And so you kiss and make up and you go on about your business and everything's normal until the next time. And then the next time. And the next time. Because
Right.
you keep pushing off whatever the issue was, not actually resolving anything.
Exactly.
And that's something that I think a lot of people that actually we've had some experience with that too. I think it's probably normal with a lot of couples is nobody wants to fight, I would like to think. And so you end the fight, but you don't end the problem.
That's exactly right.
So you have to
And then
go
that's
back
the
and address
patterns.
the
It's
issue.
his patterns.
I
Yeah,
That's right. And you
that's
have to
right.
have those hard talks and figure out whatever the problem is. Maybe that's going to therapy, maybe that's couples
Mhm.
counseling or whatever. But you have to address those issues because what does that do? That breeds resentment, that causes future fights. And you're a retired family lawyer. If you have fights over and over again for a long period of time, where does that end?
That's exactly right. Yep. And that's the thing is that people always say, I've been telling him for 10 years, I've been telling her for the past 5 years, I'm not happy. And it's like, okay, so you told them, and what else did you do about it? Well, they ignore me. Okay, so then what did you do about it? Nothing. I just waited another 2 years until it happened again. And that's what happens. I truly believe that a lot of people would not get divorced and they resolve the problem. And people don't understand resolve so many of these words. And I've been using this a lot lately for so many words like in my TikToks too, is like sorry is not a noun, it's a verb. It's a
Absolutely.
daily verb.
Yep.
Resolve is a daily verb. Change is a daily verb. And I'm going to do better. It's a daily verb. People don't understand these are daily verbs. If you do it for a week and you go back, who cares? That's actually more abusive than just saying, I can't change.
Yeah.
We're not good for each other. Don't say you're going to change 10 times a year and then you don't change. That's just abuse. Just don't do that. It's like these are daily verbs. And if it's too much work and you don't want to hear it's a daily verb to be a better person, resolve, and figure out why you're doing things that are creating these negative patterns in your relationship, then you are not ready for a relationship at all.
Yeah.
And just be honest with yourself.
That's true.
Otherwise, you're just using the other person as for companionship. You're not really in a relationship. And that's a very different
That's
thing.
true.
A lot of people get divorced and then they're older like me and then they want to start a new life. Sometimes they're looking for companionship because they don't want to be alone. They want to watch Seinfeld with somebody. They want to laugh at the joke and be like, and they want to go on vacation with people, but they don't actually want to be in a true partnership or true relationship. And those are things that docs you have to have. What are your true goals?
Yep.
And if you're not going to be in a true partnership, but you have a companion, then you don't live together, you don't get married, you don't share expenses, you don't share funds, you just are friends and you live across town and you just say, hey, I just need a buddy. And that's really friends, but you don't act like you're in a romantic relationship. That's impossible to be happy then.
I actually talked about that, I think on one of my last shows about how if you're going into a relationship, first thing I mentioned was know what your values are. So that gives you a blueprint of the person you want to be with. But the second to
Right.
that is you be honest about what you want. If you were looking for somebody just for a friend, like figure out what you want, first of all. But if you want somebody in a romantic relationship, you have to be willing to admit you're wrong and have the tough conversations. If you don't, like we're saying, nothing gets solved. And like you said, oh, it's been 5, it's been 10 years. Why don't you talk about it? Why don't you do something about it? Like you said, an apology without action is just placating. If you say, oh, I'm sorry, whatever. And just like we talked about before, about how, oh, well, I was good yesterday. I was good this morning. I didn't
Right.
do whatever. We mentioned alcohol on our second episode together. I didn't
Right.
drink all day. I'm going to get drunk now or whatever. No, it's an ongoing process, an ongoing effort. And you have to be willing to put in that consistent effort. And like we said, have that action to back up the apology. If you apologize and you don't change the action, that's just words.
Right.
I don't want to hear it. And if you have the actions for a day and then you go back to it, again, you're just saying things. I don't want you to just say things. It's meaningless if you apologize without action. That's something that Megan and I actually talk a lot about. We talked about that with the girls and just generally speaking, I don't want your apology if you're not going to back it up because it's just words. I
Right.
don't need to listen to just words.
And the thing is that when people do that, my response is, don't play me for a fool. I'm smarter than that. And when you do that, do you think I'm dumb? And how is that love? That's just the most infuriating thing to have somebody do that to you when they act like I had somebody in my family who gave me this apology on a celebrated holiday and they took me out into a different room and they apologized and they saw their ways. And I was
Oh,
just like,
yeah.
oh, maybe they really, and I was like, maybe they really mean it this time. And 2 weeks later, did the complete opposite of what they promised they would never do again. And it was like, I fell for it again. How can you do that to somebody that you love? It's just cruel.
You know what I think it is? I think we've talked about this too before. I think you're raised to do that, where a lot of times when you're a parent, you tell your kid, and y'all listen up. I know this is you. All right. We've all done this. Little Billy, you stole your sister's car. Say sorry. Say it's always apologize for what you did. So you teach the kid to apologize, which, okay, that's the first step. But what you don't teach the kid is stop taking your sister's toy. You teach the words, you don't teach the action.
And you also don't teach your kid the impact that your behavior had on the other kid. We never teach impact
Yeah, that's
ever.
true. Okay, let's play this out. You as a parent, like not you personally, obviously, just you generally speaking, the
Sure.
parent tells the kid, okay, say sorry to your brother. You don't teach the impact, you don't teach the actions to back it up. What do you think they do when they're older? They apologize, no impact, no actions,
Right.
'cause they didn't learn that lesson. And then they become
Right.
an adult when it's difficult to learn these things because they're called your developmental years for a reason when you're younger. And now you got to learn it as an adult because he didn't learn it as a kid. Because again, coming full circle here, when you were being parented by your parent as a child, you didn't learn these things. So you go back to, well, I don't want to raise my kids like I was raised. To teach my kid, here's how to apologize, here's how to back it up, here's how it affects the other person. So it can be an
Mhm.
actual true apology. So these kids never learn how to do that. And jerky kids have become jerky adults. So you got
Right.
to learn that lesson. It's better to learn it when you're young. So, all you parents out there, if you're going to teach your kids to apologize, show them how it impacts the other person and then show them how to have the actions to back it up so they don't turn into jerky adults just apologizing and saying words,
Right.
backing it up, and having all these relationship problems when they're older. 'Cause it starts when they're young.
That's right. That's a good point. I never thought about it that way. That's a really good point. Yeah.
Thanks.
That's smart.
And it's just a lot of parents, I'm guilty as charged here. You talk with your spouse and you just want to end the problem and move on. So the problem never gets fixed. You bury it and then you go on about your life. Same with an adult and with a child. You have got to get a kids to practice. You got your job. You got to clean the house. You got to do 500 things. So teaching your kid about the impact on the other person and that their actions need to back up that apology is just not something you think of because you're thinking of 900 other things. And so,
Right.
but it starts when they're little, and you got to be able to make time for that so they can have the developmental process as they get older
Right.
into adulthood
Right.
so they can have these healthy relationships and avoid all these problems.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Thanks. And again, I'm guilty of doing it. The time to learn is when you're little, not when you're an adult. But it starts with the parenting and parenting your kids. What's the goal? To treat others as you want to be treated, right? If you want people to apologize to you and have actions and mean it and understand and have the empathy how it affects you, you got to give them the same and be willing
Mhm.
to admit you're wrong and to make it better.
Right. Right.
So,
And hopefully, as an adult, though, it's not too late. I know with certain people, it's impossible. If somebody is truly being diagnosed by a professional as a narcissist, that could be very difficult because usually the definition is that they have no empathy. So they'll never know the impact on somebody. But if you don't have those kind of traits and you just maybe were not raised with learning what remorse is and learning the impact of your actions or words on people, but you can still be taught it and learn it as an adult, but it's definitely gonna be harder to break because it's such a habit. And so it's harder, but I don't ever lose hope.
yeah.
I think it can still happen. I hope.
You mentioned impact, and that I think is the one side that people don't. And I know impact is a lot goes into that empathy and such. But what does that look like in an apology to somebody? Obviously, actions, self explanatory. You took the toy away from your sister. Well, stop doing that. So if you want to say, hey, can I have this or whatever, like learn better actions. But how do you explain the impact of the apology and how it makes the other person feel in that moment?
So I've got Cohen and Rosie as my grandkids, and 5 and 3. And if Cohen takes something of Rosie's away and he doesn't think that's a big deal, he always goes, I said, I'm sorry. He's done it a million times, potentially. You would tell him, hey, this is a toy that was purchased by her by mommy, and it's very special to her. And so when she loves you very much because you're a part of the family. And so when you take that away from her, she doesn't think that she can trust you to take care of her, to take care of her belongings. And she may be thinking that you're trying to hurt how she feels about this toy with her mommy. That's like a very simple way of breaking it down for little kids. And that's showing trustworthiness, and that's showing empathy, and it's showing remorse, which is showing the impact of what you did. And it's not just saying, there's a rule, you're not allowed to take this away from somebody.
Yeah.
Because the kids need to know.
Why?
They need to know why so they don't do it again. Because otherwise, it's just another silly rule. And you shouldn't speed, or you shouldn't not use your turn signal, or you always use your turn signal when you turn left. Well, you got to explain why. Because if you don't, and there's a bicyclist and they don't see you turning left, they may get hit by your car or another car. And so, therefore, they could be injured. You have to explain the why. And that's what creates the feeling behind the rule and the willingness to not do that, breaking that rule again. And so with a little kid, that's how I would explain it to them. It's kind of like hurting a little person's feelings. You have to explain why would that hurt someone's feelings? And then if the child says, I was going to give it back to her, she should have known. Well, okay, that opens up another. Why do you think she should know that? Because have you done this more than once? So well, she doesn't know it's going to,
Yeah.
and people think that they're just 5. We can't have these conversations with them. Yeah, you can. If you can teach them the English language, if you could teach them math, if you could teach them their address and where their state is on a map, you can teach them how to feel.
Yeah.
Come on, you know,
But also, it's the pattern. Okay. Cohen takes the toy from Rosie and you talk to him about why. Next time he does it, you reinforce until eventually he learns a new healthy pattern of a way to handle
right,
things. That's the same for
right,
adults.
right,
But
right.
and as an adult,
Which, by the way,
time to learn that.
Cohen is a good kid. He's not like this. This is an example.
Oh, no, I understand. I'm sure he is.
My daughter may be watching this one day.
We're not talking bad about your kid, promise. Just an example. But like everything else, you said you were a counselor or a therapist for a while before you were a
Right,
lawyer. Most things stem from your childhood. Fix it when they're a kid. Take the second to teach your kids empathy and how to have the actions with the apology and how to back it up and how it makes the other person feel. Because, yeah, I've done it 50 times. That's the problem. You're doing it 50 times
right,
wrong. Teach them
right.
the right
Exactly.
way so
Yeah.
they can start doing the right way. And then guess what? You teach your kids to do the right thing when they're little, they'll do the right things when they're older. And you mentioned, we'll say narcissistic traits, because I know narcissism is a clinical thing. But
Right.
couldn't you make the argument that a lot of those traits for that kind of emotional toxic behaviors also starts on some level when they're little and how their parents, and I know we're getting into kind of some murky water here, so I'm going to be careful how I word this. So when a parent is teaching a child about life and how to handle situations, if you let them get away with things and never teach them accountability, isn't there a possibility as they get older, you're teaching them to have narcissistic traits or other sorts of
Absolutely. Yes. I'm not going to be that careful. I actually do not believe, no one, I don't believe you're born to be a narcissist. You are made to be a narcissist.
yeah,
And I believe parents make kids narcissists. And I truly believe that. It's like when they treat their child to be the king of the castle at the age of 7 years old and they could do no wrong. And they continue with that belief system and they make excuses for their kid and they raise them to be like that. And then even when their kid is an adult and they're 80 years old and their kid is in their 50s and they're still making excuses for them, they tell other people, have patience with them because they could be difficult. Oh, I have to be patient? How about they stop being difficult? You ever think of that? They're still making excuses for them. So whenever they're in an adult relationship and the other partner is pointing out things that are hurtful or things that they don't like in terms of their behaviors, they see it as an immediate criticism and it rocks their world. They cannot deal with it on a higher level than somebody who doesn't have narcissistic personality traits. They literally can't believe you're saying something about me? That's impossible. I'm amazing. And then they have such shame about that. And because they can't deal with criticism, they can't deal with it. And that's what rocks their. And so they either gaslight, which means they turn it around on you. They do that DARVO, right?
Yeah.
And they become the victim all of a sudden. They don't want to hear anything that you have to say. And I truly believe it's parents created. That's my opinion
Hmm.
for sure.
So let's play this out without going down another road here. You teach your kid narcissistic traits. They go through life and their relationships as adults with those same traits. They get older with those same traits, thinking that they are never the problem, they're never wrong. But it all started way, way back. And yeah, life experience as you grow up, you learn different things and people treat you certain ways and you develop certain relationship habits. We're all guilty of it. I will certainly learn some things that I still am working through with past relationships with Megan, and that's okay. I'm aware of it. We talk about it. But there's stuff that I'm sure I learned as a kid that I should have learned. I've mentioned before, I didn't have the best parents. And so I'd learn a lot as an adult, which is not learn these lessons, but you play the hand you're dealt. I learned it when I could and when it finally came up. And so what can you do? You just try and make the best of it. But if you learn these things when you're little, you won't have somebody that's a lot older into their elderly years having those sort of traits, and they'll be a better human being for it, maybe a better relationships. But again, it all starts when they're little.
Yeah. It does, it does. And when they're an adult, and that's why if you have these kind of traits, this isn't just a 6-month therapy session. It's long term. It's intense therapy, in my opinion, to break it. And there's people out there who says it can't ever be broken. And again, I don't think so. If you want to break it, I think you can learn
Yeah.
to be a better person. It's not genetic, but I do believe it's chemistry based, where you have acted a certain way for so long that your neurons only travel in that kind of a pattern. And if you practice and practice to break that neuron, so your neuron is now going this direction, and the more it goes in it, now this is your new habit, and this one's getting shorter and shorter. It's still there, but it's gonna positive is gonna go up this way now. You can stop if you really want to. I really do believe that. I always have hope for things like that. And if you don't change, then you don't want to. And people who have these narcissistic traits, you tell them that, again, they become the victim. It's, "How dare you tell me I don't want to?" It's, "Oh, come on." It's just ridiculous, the BS that they try to put on people to make them feel like that they're wrong for pointing it out and so forth. It's really sad. It's really harmful to so many relationships that could be so beautiful, and it just
Yep.
you gotta learn when to walk away because you can only take so much. It's sad.
Yep. And again, going full circle here, you don't teach your kids about apologizing. You don't teach your kids about the actions and about the why behind it and all that. And you treat your child like a friend. It's all the same conversation. Because if your
Right,
child is your friend, of course you're not going to teach them these things. Because why would you parent your friend because they have their own parent? It all makes
right.
so much sense, but people never connect these dots. If you
I
parented your
have.
child the way a parent and child relationship should be, then you wouldn't have these issues. But all
Right.
stuff comes with also treating your child like a friend, like
Mhm.
whatever.
And the thing is that too is that it's sad too that you think about we're putting all this on parents, and some parents were not raised with this information. They don't know how to find the resources themselves. So these patterns going over and over again. And I I always joke about even as of a couple days ago, Jordy and I, my significant other, we were just going night swimming, and we're doing like the waltz. We're having fun. We're like, let's just do the waltz and square dancing and just silly stuff. And I'm like, it's gosh, like in grade school,
Fun.
it's like, why am I learning square dancing? Okay. Like people always joke about on Instagram reels, people should be taught how to balance a checkbook and things like that. Yeah, obviously. But we're also not taught how to be good human beings. Kids get demerits, kids have to sit out in the hallway, kids get detention, kids get suspension. So we
Long
teach punishment in
absent
school,
topic.
but we don't teach how to resolve problems in school. And I don't know if you recall this or not, but during one of our pre-interviews, when I was a baby attorney, one of the things I did volunteering is that I was heading up a mediation service at a lower income high school and middle school in the county where I lived, where we would come in as attorneys, me and another person, and we were teaching kids who headed up this group and mediation services, and they were then used as resources for kids who were getting in trouble. So if they were having detention or they were being suspended or whatever the case may be for violating a school rule, they would then go to mediation. These we were training these kids how to teach life skills and coping mechanisms and how to not have a punch fight in the hallway before class and how to have self-respect and how to deal with your problems. And but how sad is that? There were kids in the school who thought maybe we should be doing this, and then they get lawyers who volunteer their time to help them with that. The school should be doing that in the classroom,
Yeah,
in my opinion. Like there be an hour a week where you have teachers who are trained that way, or actually have those schools have therapists, they have school psychologists. Why aren't they going in the classroom an hour a week and teaching young kids in middle school and high schoolers how to be good human beings and teaching them the impact of your behaviors
yeah,
and how to resolve things and how to deal with conflict? It's like they don't do that. Guess what? The program that we did actually dissipated because they didn't have the funds to let us into the schools after hours anymore because they didn't have the budget for it. So it stopped,
that's sad.
right? I still know how to square dance. It's pathetic. I know how to square dance from school, but I don't know how to resolve things. If we're going to force our kids to go to school, why aren't we using the resources for that sort of thing?
Yep, I learned how to roller skate and square dance. We did line dancing to Garth Brooks. By the way, I love me some Garth Brooks.
And dodgeball. It's like dodgeball. It's like I dodgeball. But not to be conflict mediators or resolve things. It's weird.
Hey, not for nothing, I can smell those rubber balls still.
I know, right? When I said it, I can smell.
That's a legitimate thing there.
PTSD from
Yeah,
dodgeball right in
I
the
can see
face.
a picture of that ball, and I can feel it, I could smell it, I can taste it. I mean, it is
I don't. We went from dodgeball to kickball, which is a little less aggressive, but still,
kickball's fun too. Uh,
kickball's fun. Yeah, kickball's less aggressive. That was fun.
Way off topic, anyway. Um, you mentioned how people are showing what's bad. I'm a truck driver by day, podcaster, and all this stuff by night. But when I'm in the truck, it's always they expect you to do your job and do a good job at your job. And once in a while, they give you praise. But man, you mess up, they are on you. Like the one time you happen to maybe go a little fast or whatever it is, man, they are on you quickly. What about all the times you're not? Oh, and they tell you, oh, that's part of your job. You get a DOT inspection, you pass. I know it's something you're probably not familiar with, but DOT inspection is when state trooper comes out and there's three different levels of it. It goes from basically checking your paperwork to looking at everything. And so you have a level three, which is like the very simple one that check your paperwork, check a couple things, whatever. Not a big deal. But you pass your DOT inspection, and it's not, "Oh, good job." No, it's, "Yeah, of course you did, because you do your job." Okay, but also, like, you're so quick to point out when somebody's doing something negative, why aren't you talking about something positive? And maybe you can shed some light on this. I know there's a thing where if you have a tough conversation with somebody, I bring them something negative. They say to say 4 positive things or something to make up for the
Mm.
negative, however the math works out. But
I don't believe in that, by the way,
no?
if I can be real. Yeah, I don't believe in it.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I don't believe in that is because if you, let's say that you lied to me
Yeah,
and you lied to me before and you lied to me again, and you're not transparent. I had to discover it, right? It's one of those kind of lies.
yeah,
I'm not going to sit there and tell you 4 good things. I'm going to say, you were not transparent again. You broke a promise.
yeah,
You lied about this situation. You knew how it was going to impact me and hurt me because I've been very clear about that before. And I'm not real happy. And I don't know if I could say, I'm not going to say, oh, but yeah, I love how you always make the bed. And I love how you massage my feet when you're, no, you lied to me. And you need to sit with that. You need to sit with that. And so I think there's different levels of it. Like now, as an employer, whenever I would give my annual reviews, I would always start off with all the good things. So it depends upon the
it's
scene.
fair.
Okay.
It's fair.
Okay. So as an employer, I would say these are the 10 things or 8 things that I enjoy being with you in this job. It wasn't always just you show up on time. I would talk about things I enjoy
Yeah,
as you're a human being. So I think you're not just my employee, you're a human being too. And I think people need to know that you actually like them.
yeah.
And so I would say good things about your job or good things about you. And then I would say, and these are the things we need to work on. And so hopefully we can see this whole big picture. I think that there's a time and place for that, but sometimes interpersonal relationships,
Mm.
I'm not sure that always works. I think with kids it works. I think with kids it definitely works. Employees it works. And I think those are a really smart thing to do. But I think that in interpersonal relationships, I think if you do something really bad, I don't have any obligation to puff you up, in my opinion. So I think it depends upon the scene that you're involved with.
Yeah, I could agree with that, sure. But with the employee-employer situation and with children, don't be always so quick to just point out the negative. And
Right.
also, there's always a joke in retail is, "Oh, let's have a pizza party." "Yeah, everyone's doing a good job. Let's have a pizza party."
Yeah.
"Okay, great. We can get our own fill in the blank pizza brand," whatever the case. "No, how about you do something that shows genuine gratification? Maybe some money. I know there's tax implications with that, but maybe it's like an actual gift. Just give me pizza. Like, I work for a living. I can buy my own pizza, thanks."
I think that what we would do is that we would close the office early and give them an experience that they have never done before.
Cool.
And so that's the things that we would do. Like we would close the office and we would go to a Cubs game and I take them to a restaurant that I know they would never have gone to and I pay for everything or the firm pays for it. But and we just spend the whole day together and we don't talk about work at all. And we take selfies and we act like we're friends, not employer employee. And that's just one example. But there's other things too. Treat to a spa day. You don't have to come into work on Wednesday and you get to do this instead. I think that's the way that you can show your employees that you realize that they're human beings. And I think that you have to, I think it's good. Sometimes I will do something where they can do something on their own, but 99% of the time I would do the experience with them so we could just be human beings together. And I think that was very helpful.
That's awesome. So, changing gears a little bit here. Through our conversations, are there any like major takeaways that you want to just reinforce, things you might be want to say, hey, this really made an impact. I'm really glad we talked about this, or and anything like that?
I think my takeaway is that it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have. It doesn't matter how much therapy you've been to. It doesn't matter how much you've leaned on a good friend. You can still learn. You should never think that you know everything. You should never, like you and I have been very complimentary to each other in our pre-interviews as well as I'm learning from you and you've learned some things from me. And then putting that into place is the more important part, obviously. But I think that you're never too old. You should never say, here's an example that kind of maybe ties this in. And Jordy and I were talking about this just yesterday.
Mhm.
When we watch a movie where a father figure says, "Because I'm your father." We've seen 2 movies like that this year alone. One with Nick Offerman, Sovereign, and then one with Denzel Washington on Apple TV. And it's "I'm your father" kind of an attitude. And it's like, That is the least reason why I should do anything is because you're my boss, because you're my lover, because you're my best friend, is because you're my father or my mother. That's not why I should do anything. That's the same thing like we tell our kid, you broke the rule, you have detention, and that's it. And so what I've learned is that, like with my daughter, like when she had pointed out to me that I messed up again, I did not say, well, I'm your mother. I never even thought of saying that. Now, would I have said that maybe 10 years ago when she was 18? Yeah, I probably did. Was it right? No. But did I think it was right? Yeah. But now I realize, no, like people can come to you no matter how old they are and they can say, you did me wrong. And your only response is, I'm sorry. I hear you. And I will do everything I can to never do that again and to actually to never do it again. And I will tell you, these past 4 years of my life and working through these podcasts, I think that's the one thing I've learned is that I'm not incapable of learning and changing and being a better person. Um, like, I think Megan and I have gotten closer in the past 2 years than we've ever been,
Awesome.
and I don't know if it's a combination of her and me, or we're just getting to be more adults, I don't know, but I feel like we're closer. I feel like my group is getting smaller because I'm only relying on the people that are truly healthy for me, and I'm healthy for them. I've just learned to care for myself, but not in a selfish way, care for myself so I'm better for people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people say, "I'm taking care of myself," but they're doing it selfishly. They're doing it to set a boundary and I don't need you in my life. That's not what it's supposed to be about. It's to be about, I'm going to take care of myself so I can be a better human being so we can have a better relationship. And I think you and I have gotten closer, definitely, throughout this process too. So I think that we just, it doesn't sound sappy, we just have trying to have a pure heart and trying to be loving and trying to know your impact on people and knowing that you can be wrong, but it doesn't make you a bad person and you don't have to feel shame for it. You just have to recognize it and say, "Oh, I did something really bad to you. Oh my God. I am really messed up about that. And I'm going to do the work so I don't do that again." And that's not shame, that's growth. And I think that's very important. So that's what I've learned.
Absolutely. A couple points I just want to touch on that you mentioned, expand a little bit. A lot of parents, there's this saying out there, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
What? Let's break that down logically for a minute. So you're the parent, you're the employer, you're in a relationship, even. How does that make any sense? So
Right.
wait, it's okay for you to not do these things and show all these. You are my example. So it's okay for you to have these bad behaviors and not do the things you're teaching me, which honestly is hypocritical.
Oh, yeah.
But how's that okay? No, do as I say, not as do like I do. That's why I'm saying flip the script. If you're not doing
That's
it,
exactly
you're
right.
telling somebody else to do it because then again, you're a hypocrite.
That's exactly right.
Because then they always say, saw this thing a while back. It was like kids like cussing, say drinking, smoking, whatever the case. Parent asked, dad will say, asked, son, why do you do this and that? And he goes, because that's what you do. But I tell you not to do it. That's what you tell me not to do. But that's what I see you actually doing. They say in parenting that if you're a dad, you are your daughter's first love. You set the example of
Right.
how men should treat them when they're older.
Yes, I've heard that too.
And boys, a mom, I'm sure you can speak on this. You treat your son how a woman should treat your son when he's older and when he's married to his wife. And so if you are treating your kids in a really toxic and abusive way, you're showing your children it's okay to have somebody else treat you like that. And it's not. And then you're surprised when they get older and they have these really horrible relationships. Yeah, once again, where did that start? When they were a kid, because you taught them that. I didn't raise them like that. I didn't tell them to do that. That's the problem. You told them that. You didn't show them that.
And I also question, even in families that aren't so toxic where they repeat the pattern, but I guess it could be even an extremely toxic family too, but the person chooses to not be in that same realm. Like we started this whole program with, I'm not going to raise my kids like I was raised. Some people can break out of and they realize this is wrong my whole life. They don't see this as a pattern that they don't cement these negativities in their head. They say, I can't wait to get out of this house because I'm not like these people. I can't wait to get out. And I've seen so many people who connect with another human being very young in life. So many people they marry their high school sweetheart. Hello, I did. And I know a lot of people do that, or they get married out of college. And a lot of people do that. And I often wonder, are they connecting with that person and is it an amazing love story? Or are they doing what society tells them they should do? Or the worst of them all is that, are they just running away and it just helps to find somebody that listened to you for the first time? They gave you empathy for the first time.
Mm.
They showed you love for the first time, or you think it's love because it's attention. Maybe it's just love bombing and it's attention for the first time. And so you just grab onto that for hope that somebody's being nice to me and somebody's listening to me. And that actually may be as toxic as that open conflict that you've been raised with, because then you realize that love bombing is going to go away and this person's drawing you in and then they're going to keep their claws on you and not let you leave. They're not just going to treat you the same way they treated you in the beginning. And so those types of things also need to be talked, if you're a healthy parent, to talk about with your young child too, like when they're in high school. And because everyone's in love when they're 14, 15, 16, 17. And like, we've talked about this before, is that there's no such thing as one true love. You can fall in love with 5 different people in your lifetime as an adult. Just because you met somebody on the street, that doesn't mean that God placed them there. You could have turned the corner because you forgot your something at your house, your water bottle, and you met somebody else down this street. Who knows who you're gonna fall in love with? And so I think that we need to, as healthy parents, or as we become healthy parents, to talk to our kids when you're finding that one true love that you think you're finding. Are you running away from the home that I built you? Are you running towards something? Are you running away from something? Or why are you even running? Because like those are all things that we don't teach our kids until it's too late, to be quite honest with you. I didn't have this conversation with my kids until I went through my divorce. I don't forget when my son found out about my divorce. He came into a bedroom and he just sat there and he was crying and he was just like, I need to know what to do so I don't repeat what you just did with dad. I don't want this in my life. What can I do? And I said, "Oh, you want me really blunt with you?" And he's like, yes, because I never want to be divorced. I want to learn right now. I mean, what an amazing, brave thing to do for a kid. And so I sat there and I told him, I'm like, these are the 3 or 4 things that I wish was different in my relationship with your father, if you want to know. And he was like, thank you for that. And so where did he get that from? I don't know. I did sit my kids down once a month and talk to them about everything, just me and both my kids. Do you have any questions of me? Are you having trouble in school? Are you being bullied? Are you having sex? Are you having questions about your sexual orientation? Do you not like something that I'm doing? I would sit down with them throughout the whole year, and they hate it. "Mother, you do this. Everything's fine, Ma." They hated it. But I think it's important to let your kids
Awesome.
know that you can come to me and talk to me. Like, my daughter can tell me to my face on FaceTime and in person, "You messed me up." Even though I messed up then, hopefully it's because I gave them that opportunity to know that I'm a safe place for you to talk to me, and I won't judge you for talking to me about anything. Hopefully I've helped that instill that in them, or maybe they got that on their own and I shouldn't take credit for that. I don't care where they got it from. I'm just glad they have the ability to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
I think that was a tangent that you didn't expect. Sorry, but I just
No,
went off on that one.
it's good stuff. You mentioned 4 things. What were those things that you told him to avoid having that in his own relationship?
So, one thing that I also told all of my divorce clients whenever they were thinking that maybe they could go to therapy and resolve something, or I would tell them this once I had them sign the marital settlement agreement or we were done with the divorce trial, however they ended up having to get divorced, and I knew they were already dating. I'd be, okay, remember these 3 things, right? And we talked about this, I think, in the first episode. I said, find somebody who's your best friend, right? Number 2, have lots of sex. And number 3, it doesn't matter who earns what money. All the money is everybody's money, unless you have children to protect estate-wise, but that's a different story. But no one should ever feel like, I can't go to Target and spend $50 with a joint bank account. I should have to ask permission if we have the money. It's be on the same page money-wise. So I said those 3 things are really important to have a long-term marriage. So I said that to my son. The other thing I said to my son is, never ever ignore your wife. Never just assume she's always going to be there. Never assume that she's going to forgive you for the rest of your life if you keep making mistakes. Like, never make assumptions. You should always date your wife. You should always try to win your wife. You should always try to make them feel like they are the number one choice in your life. Saying I love you every day means nothing if you don't show them that you've chosen them every day, which is a verb, right?
Mm.
So I can't recall the other two things I told him, but it was in the scheme of things basically. It's just don't ignore, show that you choose them, listen to them, always remain best friends, don't harbor resentment, don't harbor contempt, talk about things. And it was that kind of a line of what I had said to him.
Goes along the lines of John Mayer's song "Love Is a Verb," and that's true. Saying "I love you," that it's a lot more than just words. Just like an apology, you have to back it up and show that you love somebody, not just say it, and continue to show it each and every day. And the way you do things, the way you handle yourself, the way you are with your spouse, how you talk to them, constant thing.
It is. Like, you ever see those compilations on Instagram where they have these older couples and people have caught them on camera just doing silly things? And there's one where and when I say older couples, like 70s and higher, okay? And they're clearly been married for a while. And the woman is like at a store and the old man, he's like got a hunchback, he's all old, and he like comes up and he squeezes his 75-year-old's little her butt, just squeezes her butt, and he's giggling about it. And she's like, "Oh, Frank." And I'm like, he's still flirting with her and they're 75 and 80 years old. It never is supposed to end. No matter how old you are, you're supposed to always say, I'm choosing you and I'm still flirting with you. Flirt, flirt.
Yeah,
Even if you're married, flirt,
yeah,
you
that's
know,
right.
and be willing to accept the flirtatious behaviors.
Sure.
That's the other thing. You may flirt with Megan, but if Megan's going to be like, what are you doing?
Stop it.
You have to you have to accept the flirt, be playful, accept the flirt.
And also accept the compliments. A lot of people, "Oh, you're so pretty." "Oh, no, I'm not." "Okay. I really like your hair like that." "Oh, I don't. It's so greasy."
Right.
"Oh, I like you better with a mustache." "Yeah, but it's so much of a pain and whatever it is,
Yeah.
stop throwing shots at the compliment. "Thank you." Yeah,
Exactly. Because it
stop.
feels good to compliment somebody because it's a way of showing love and attention and choosing them too. Like my boyfriend, I think he's a very attractive man. And when he dresses up, I'm like, oh, I melt. And I'll go, oh, you look good. And he'll go, I don't need the compliment. And I gotta sit him down and say, "You make me feel bad when you say that because I am choosing you. It makes me feel good to let you know how much I appreciate the effort you put in to dial up and damn, you smell good and you look good, your hair looks good, and you shaved and you do all the things. You did all that for me. So let me acknowledge it and share my adoration for you." I mean, it took a long time for him to say, "Thanks, babe." He had a hard time accepting compliments for that. That's a historical thing on his end. I don't know why. But yeah, that was creating conflict with me because I'm like, I can't even tell the person I'm living with that you're cute. What fun are you? I don't want to be with you then. We have to stop this. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Accept the compliment. Yep.
It's not only I think a compliment is not only an acknowledgement of the fact that you find whatever it is appealing in whatever way, but it also it's an acknowledgement. It's a way of thanking them for putting in the effort and
Right.
for whatever it is. So, "Hey,
Yes.
I really like your hair," which is actually saying, "Wow, you took time and effort. Thank you for putting that effort for me. It looks really nice."
Exactly right. And it's even for your kids too.
Yeah, good.
Of course, everybody thinks their kids are beautiful, but like my daughter will send me like a selfie with her and her kids, or I'll see like a Facebook story and I'll go, send me that pic. I'm like, you look so pretty. I go, you are so pretty. And she'll have no makeup on. She didn't do anything to her hair. She worked all day. She's at a playground, but she just has this natural beauty in her. And I will routinely tell her how pretty she is. And I think that's important even when they're adults to still compliment your kids too. Damn, Tyler, you've been really working out. You look amazing. Or I love how now you shave your head because he was going bald and you look really handsome. I tell my son, you are really handsome. And I don't think it's creepy to compliment your adult kids either. I think it's nice to even have that flirtatious with your children too. I think it keeps things playful. It shows that you are recognizing them as human beings and that it's always one thing to say, yeah, I tell them how smart they are, and I say all that stuff too, and they're good parents. But I think on every level, it's good to compliment people. I think it's nice. People want to hear it too. We all have that little ego boost, so why not give it? I even do to strangers. I don't know about you, and I do it to strangers. If I see somebody at a restaurant and a woman and I like her glasses or her boots or her hair or her personality, on the way out, I go, "You are rocking it." And you say a stranger, and she's like, "What?" And I'm like, You're rocking it, kid." And I just think it's nice to share.
It's cool.
Why, if you have a good thought about somebody, why not share the good thought? Why keep the good thought? Because what's the point?
But the thing is, mean it. Don't just say it for the sake
Right.
of saying it because people see through that being fake and phony. Say
Yes.
something because it's the right thing to do. No,
Right.
if you're gonna compliment somebody, mean it.
Right. Exactly.
And if there's
Yeah.
nothing to compliment about the person, then maybe you should reevaluate your life choices
Exactly.
and the way you look at life because there's always something to compliment. But
Mhm.
again, mean it. That's the
Right.
key. And like you said,
Right.
then acknowledge it and be willing to receive it, of course.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm gonna go back to apologies for a second. So we talked quite a bit about conflict, which is good because it's definitely a strong topic. A lot of people I think struggle with, and just to reinforce this, that when people apologize, it's not, "Oh, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt." It's not that. It's, "I'm sorry I did something that hurt your feelings." And then again, you go back to the empathy and the actions and all that kind of thing. But that little detail matters because you're acknowledging you messed up. You did something. You don't, the difference is, I don't know, let's just say you had a bad day at work. I'm sorry you had a bad day at work. Something you have no control over. You're acknowledging, you're showing empathy to them to show, you know what? I feel really bad. You had a rough day at work, and I'm sorry you had a bad day at work. Nothing you can do about it. Versus, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. Not I'm sorry your feelings are hurt. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I had control over that. It's acknowledging the fact that you contributed to that situation. I had no part of her having a bad day at work. She comes home and I hurt her feelings. I need to own that. That's the difference.
Can I go further? So if somebody's having a bad day at work and they come home, I think it's very important. So I just learned this from somebody she's been on a lot of podcasts. She had a really famous TED Talk recently. And so she's been on all these podcasts and she said something that I was like, I love it. I'm going to steal it. And I've been using it. I've used it twice already so far. She says, everyone talks about a 50-50 relationship. And then some people later on said, no, everybody should be each 100%. And she's like, it's all BS. She goes, if you're having a bad day, once you realize I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or I got in a fight with my mom, or I had a bad day at work, whatever it is, the kids made me mad today, or I burnt dinner. You go to your spouse and you say, I'm at 20% today. I want to let you know I can only give you 20%.
Hmm.
And I'll let you know when I'm back to 100. But right now I'm at 20%. Can you be my 80% today?
Yeah.
And the other person is not obligated to be the 80%. They may say, I'm only at 15 today. And that way, then you can know I'm not going to put my expectations upon you. I'm not going to expect something that you can't give me right now. So now I'm not going to get mad at you for not being there for me. I'm going to resent you. And no, let's be honest. So yesterday I had a bad day and I went for a 4 mile walk on the beach and he said something and I didn't laugh. He looked at me. I go, you know what? I'm at 15%. I can't give more than 15%. Have grace. And he looked at me and he goes, I'm at 40. I gotcha. And we ended up having a great night. I guarantee you, if we did not say that to each other, he would have been like, why isn't she laughing at my joke? I can never do anything right. He'd go into victim modality.
Yeah.
I would get mad that he's having a bad day. And it would just be this thing. And it was just like when you can't be your 100% or you're getting the vibe that somebody's not being, say, hey, I'm getting a vibe from you. I'll let you know I'm having a great day. I'm at 100%. So if you need me, great. If you don't, whatever, but I'm at 100% today.
Yeah.
So I'm not downplaying you having a bad day. I'm just having a really good day. And I shouldn't have to go down to 20% because I'm having a 100% day. let's go. I'm having a good day. I'm here for you if you need me. I think that is such a great way to look at everything in life, but especially your spouse or your intimate person in your life. I think that's really helpful to do.
Talk about learning stuff from our time together here. That's something I'm going to talk about with Megan. That's a really good idea.
Yeah,
And
I love it. It's really been a life-changing thing for us.
that's neat.
Yeah, and you don't judge. It's very freeing. It's so honest without going into anything. You just say, "I'm at 15%." And if you are honest with each other and just using it just to be a jerk, I just think it's a great tool.
Another thing too, I think is important is actually we did this morning before we started here. I was having some issues with the setup and things just weren't going right while I was trying to get going here. I actually thought we were starting it a little bit earlier. That's why I texted you earlier and I was like, oh, shoot,
That's so
I actually have time. We're good. But at the
yeah.
time, I was messaging Megan and I was getting kind of snippy. And I'm like, look, I'm just having some technical issues right now. And so she realized that, okay, I'm not snapping at her. I'm getting frustrated. And not, I don't say taking it out on her, but just being snippy just because of the mood I'm in, because of the stuff I was trying to
Right.
figure out. And she's like, all right, well, I know you're
Yep.
having issues. So just text me after. Let me know how it went. I love you.
Right, right.
Like,
Yeah.
be honest about it. Like, hey, she can come home. I had a really rough day at school. Like yesterday, she had a really rough day at school. I know she had a lot going on and dealing with whatever with parents and all that kind of stuff. And okay, well, thanks for telling me. It gives me an idea that okay, she clearly is having a rough day. Today I was having a bit of a rough morning. And so you can proceed forward. So you know if they get snippy with you, just like the whole percentage thing, you know where it comes from.
Mhm.
Like the percentage
Right.
thing you mentioned, because maybe I got home from work and I had a bad day too. And that'll tell both of us that, you know what, we're both just not in the best headspace right now. And so let's just
Right.
kind of lay low and just go about our night. So that's a good idea.
Yep. Especially for newer relationships that you're still learning each other, I think it's a good idea. The funny thing is my best friend of over 30 years, we do that, but unknowingly because we don't tell each other our percentages, but we've been on so many vacations together that I can have a bad day and she just backs off. And then she'll have a bad day and I just back off. And we joke about it at the end of the vacation. And I'm like, no wonder everybody thinks we're married. Everybody thinks we're a couple. And we always joke about it. And so I'm like, I think it's because we work so well together. It's
Mm.
like we know I've known her just a few years longer than I've known my ex-husband. So it's that kind of a relationship.
Wow.
But with my boyfriend, it's only been 3.5 years. So that's why we have to give those percentages to each other because we don't know how to read each other yet.
Absolutely. That's awesome. When you get to know someone that well, especially after all that time, you can only
Yeah.
hope that romantic relationships eventually get to that point.
Exactly. Exactly. I
Healthy
agree.
way
Right.
for sure. Anything I missed before we final and close here?
I don't think so. I often think that what we end up talking about is better than what we plan to talk about, to be quite honest with you. I'm never concerned if we leave something off the island because I feel like we always just do a really good job of just talking.
We seem to have good conversations, and
Yep.
like we were saying, tend to go whatever direction. We're pretty good at feeding off of each other. So, anything memorable? I know we mentioned some takeaways in the previous part, but any memorable quotes or anything you want to leave people with here before we close it out?
Well, what I want to say is that being aware of the chemistry, whether it's negative or positive, is very important.
Mm.
We talked a lot about if you feel like the other person's mood of the day impacts how you're only allowed to act around the person, which goes with the percentages. If the person would have just been honest and said, I'm at 15% instead of having just a bad mood, and then you're having to walk on eggshells and you're not allowed to enter a certain room because you're scared to, that's not the percentages, right? So you should never feel like you're walking on eggshells in your own home. You should never feel like you're a guest in your own home. You should be able to be open about everything in your own home and with your partner, obviously. And these are all shoulda, woulda, couldas, but they're things that I think that they are attainable. And I think that people need to realize that you may have been through some pain or sorrow in your life, and that's why you may be second guessing. about a certain relationship, but you can't linger in that. You need to keep growing. You need to keep learning. You can't just say everything just be easy and happy. Like I told you, I think in the first episode or in our pre-interview, how I've got this client who became a friend, how he disagrees with me. He's like, no, it should just be happy. We're in a prime of our life. We're both in our 50s. We have new people in our life. We should start enjoying life. It's like, okay, if you never have conflict, like ever, are you kidding me? That's not real world. Then you guys don't really know each other. You're not really having deep conversations because there's no way that you can't have some conflict, even innocent light conflict. It's going to happen. You're going to have a disagreement about how an air conditioner works in a car when the auto button is pushed. And that's a side story. But like you're going to have a conflict. And if you can't learn to talk about it, to grow from it, and to let things go, you don't have to be right about everything. You can't just swallow the right answer sometimes. If you say, I know I said this to him a million times, you could just say, all right, so you don't remember. I'll tell you again. You be less ego specific in your life with somebody. Learn to swallow things, learn not to have to be right all the time. But also, there are situations that create where you have to bring it up and you have to be able to listen, validate, attune with the person, which I talked about today more than ever. And I just think that it's never too late to grow. And I just want people to feel less shame when they make a mistake. Because I think that if you feel the shame when you make a mistake, you're not growing and you're not going to be able to validate and work with your spouse. I think you need to just have no shame and just say, I messed up. I'm going to fix it versus, well, I'm the victim. And look what you do to me. And if you didn't do this, stop with the shame. Just stop it because you're not being attacked. It's just called positive feedback. I need this in my life with you. I'm just giving you feedback. You should be a safe person to receive my feedback. And if you're going to be shameful about it and you're going to be darvoing and being that victim, then I can't be with you right now. And I'm going to walk out of the room. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to go for a
You
swim or whatever the case may
mentioned
be.
DARVO. What's DARVO?
So DARVO is an acronym that therapists have put together. I think it was like in the 70s, I'm not mistaken. So it's where people become defensiveness. So when you give feedback to your partner, they go into DARVO mode. And a lot of narcissists do this. So it's where you are the defensive, which is the D, and then attack, which is the A. And the RVO is repeat victim offender. And so it's where I initially say, Mark, I don't like it when you do X. And instead of saying, I hear you, I see the impact that puts on you. I promise I wouldn't do that anymore. And I did it again. I can't imagine how hurtful it is and that you don't trust me anymore. That's a perfect, healthy response, right? Darvo is where they say, I did it because you did this, or I wouldn't have to act like this if you would do this, or I blame my boss to how I treat you. So you're defending instead of saying, I just did it. I did it. You're giving a reason why you did it. I don't care what your reason is. You
Just
did it. And right, and then you attack. So you start attacking me. You start yelling at me. I start yelling at you, and I start telling you what a bad person you are, and all the bad things that you've done. So I'm reversing it. Right? So the reverse victim offender goes along with the attack. So you're saying now you become the topic of conversation. So you came to me with a complaint, Mark, and now it's all about me and all my suffering and how bad you are to me and how the world is on my shoulders. And you sit there and you go, if you're not healthy, you sit there and you say, wow, I'm sorry. How can I help you? And the energy switched and they win, right? Instead, as you're a healthy person, you say, I believe that's Darvo. And can we please circle back and talk about what I just said? I didn't like it that you lied to me. I didn't like it that you did X. Can we keep the person on track? It's a manipulation tactic to take the attention off of your feedback and what you want to talk about and put it all on them. And that's what narcissists do. And so it's a way to say, I don't want to hear you. I'm not safe for you. But a healthy person needs to learn to not allow that to happen. They have to say, I hear what you just said. Thank you for that. But I started the conversation. And so we're going to talk about my feedback I gave you. And if you're not willing to listen to my feedback, I'm going to leave the room. You let me know when you're ready to actually listen to me and then when you're ready to be safe. If you're buying into it, you're not helping the person stopping those kind of behaviors. You're feeding into each other in a healthy situation.
again, that all comes back to practice, right? Some of
Yes.
these things might be new. I'm certainly growing. We're all growing. Things I'm working on with myself and with Megan and and whatnot. But it's a process, and Along with
Yes.
that is also having healthy conflict. So,
Yeah.
conflict isn't bad. Conflict could be good.
No.
For example,
Right.
Megan and I have different ways of seeing things. She's very artistic, again, her English, right? I'm more math and science, so I think things more in a logical kind of way. And so we look at things in an opposite way. A good example I like to use is we are hanging up a shelf on a sliding glass door at our old house. And what it was is there was suction cups, I think, and then like ropes that came down. And so we wanted to be centered and have it look all nice and all that. And I'm there measuring everything out, trying to get it all lined up and put little marks and everything, and very logical, very methodical. She goes, all right, here's a line that we need. Put it against the wall here, circle, circle, right there. And I lined it up.
Right.
And so I took her paper, I lined up, centered it on the window. Turned out the right answer was both of us. Not one
Right.
of us
Right.
was wrong. That we complemented each other on how to solve that problem.
Right.
A little bit of conflict in the beginning, but most problems we have, there are other examples, but most stuff like that is the right answer tends to be something in the middle because I'm overcomplicating,
Right.
is oversimplifying it, and
Mhm.
we get there together eventually.
Exactly right.
And like you mentioned, if you never have conflict, honestly, dating yourself, I think would probably be pretty boring. So if you don't have any conflict, that means that you're just, it's like a copy of yourself. And I don't see that being, but just like
Mhm.
DARVO and all that, there's a right ways to have conflict. And conflict is something that's always an ongoing process, and having conflict about healthy things and owning it and apologizing in the right way are all definitely healthy ways to handle it. And by the way, one of the things about mile marker mindset is I always say your past doesn't define you. A lot of people say, oh, you're defined by your past. No, you're not defined by your past. You can use your past to refine you. Say you had a bad
Right.
childhood. So you weren't raised right. So whatever. Okay, great. It's in the past. Roll with it. Move on. Take action now to let your past refine you. Because the moment the mindset shifts, that's when things start to change in your life. That's why I
That's
say,
exactly right. Yeah.
shift your mindset, shift your life, right?
It's true. That's true. That's
'Cause
right.
once you make up your mind that you want to change, that changes everything. But you have to make up your mind because your desire to change has to be greater than your desire to remain the same.
That's
That's
exactly right. I know. I'm sorry. It just drives me crazy because so many people, they actually will say to you, no, I want to change. I just can't. And I'm like, no, you don't want to change then. You don't want to change. You're continuing to do
so what?
something because at some level, it gives you some sort of weird joy. You get something positive out of it. Because if it was only negative you get out of it, you wouldn't do it anymore. And so just be honest with yourself, but people will be honest with themselves.
Yep.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah.
always like, oh, I want to quit smoking, but I want to do this and that, but well, then you don't.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I love you, but no, you don't need to put a qualifier on it. Just the first part's all you need. Do the
Mhm.
action.
Mhm. Right.
Trying to
Right.
qualify it.
Right.
That's not necessary.
Right.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, your past doesn't define you, it refines you. And man, that is one of the biggest things I have about here that with mile marker mindset. People just need to learn that is help use your past to make you better, to make you a better person, to learn from your past. Because you are not your product of your past, but that doesn't dictate your future. So
Right.
letting it do that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And it sounds easy, and I know it takes work,
Yep.
but I don't think it's as hard as people make it out to be. I think when people say, "Oh, I have so much to change and it's hard." Once you identify it like that, yeah, it's going to be. Of
Yep.
course.
You made
You
up
know,
your
I
mind
mean,
to start first.
exactly. It's CBT and it's cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of that kind of therapy. How you label things is how you're going to perceive your life and perceive others and perceive your growth. And so you have to say, oh, you know what? I only have to do these two things. I get to do these two things. It's a much different way than saying I have to do these two things. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, it's been fun here for our third episode. I'm sure we'll do this again. So thank you again for coming on. And again, you can find her on TikTok at Mama Jules POV underscore
That's
million.
right.
I'll have to check that out. That's awesome. Stone.
It's good stuff.
It is. Thanks again, and we'll talk
Thank
soon.
you for having me. Okay. Thanks, Mark. Bye bye, everyone.
The Mile Marker Mindset podcast is for informational, inspirational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. This podcast is not a substitute for professional or clinical advice. If you are in crisis or need immediate help, please visit milemarkermindset.com/crisis or call 911.